Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News. Our first story, there's some major news coming out of the Pentagon tonight. President Trump has just revealed plans that could dramatically reshape America's military leadership. He took to Truth Social to announce he wants to replace General C.Q. Brown as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff with retired Lieutenant General Dan Raisin Kane. Now, this is pretty significant because while it's normal for civilian leadership at the Pentagon to change between administrations, the military side usually stays above the political fray, serving both Democratic and Republican presidents. General Brown, who made history as only the second black officer to serve as the president's top military advisor, was expected to stay in his role until September 2027. But that's not all. Trump says he's planning to replace 5 other top military leaders too, in what people are calling an unprecedented shakeup of Pentagon leadership. All of this is happening while the Defense Department is already looking at potential changes to its civilian staff and major budget adjustments, which the administration says fits with their America First foreign policy approach.
Now, bottom line, it is simply not in the public interest to retain individuals whose contributions are not mission critical.
Today marks 1 month of President Trump's return to the Oval Office, and there is no denying this administration is off to a historic start. The president has already signed 73 executive orders. That is more than double the number signed by Joe Biden and more than quadruple the number signed by Barack Obama over the same period. These executive orders have ended burdensome regulations, sealed the border, unleashed our domestic energy sector, eliminated divisive DEI from our federal government, stopped the weaponization of government, cut waste, fraud, and abuse, reinstituted America First trade and foreign policies, and ultimately restored common sense.
President Trump is walking back his earlier comments on Ukraine, now saying Russia did, in fact, invade and that Kyiv is close to signing a minerals deal with the U.S. as part of efforts to end the war. Now, on Tuesday, Trump sparked backlash after saying Ukraine should have never started the war.
And I think I have the power to end this war. And I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine.
A remark criticized both in the U.S. and abroad. But he reversed course, acknowledging that Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered the invasion.
I think that President Putin and President Zelensky are going to have to get together because you know what? We want to stop killing millions of people. You have young soldiers being killed. If you saw the pictures that I saw of the battlefield from satellite, you've never seen any pictures like that. I want to see a ceasefire and I want to get the deal done. I think we have a chance to get the deal done. I had to make sure that Russia wanted to do it. It's a war that would have never happened if I was president, but it did happen. We're spending our treasure. They're spending their blood. They are. And they're very brave in every way you can imagine. But we are spending our treasure on a country that's very, very far away. And it's okay, but we have to be treated the same as Europe is being treated. Europe gets their money back. Europe is basically giving nothing because they get it back in the form of a loan, and it's a guaranteed loan. We don't get our money back, and we're losing. I mean, we don't want to do that anymore. So we're signing an agreement, hopefully in the next fairly short period of time, that will assure us that we'll get $400 or $500 billion back. We're in there for $300 billion.
How close are you to striking a minerals deal?
I think we're pretty
Ukraine?
close. Yeah, I think they want it, and they feel good about it, and it's significant. It's a big deal.
At the same time, Trump pushed Kyiv to sign a critical minerals deal with Washington, saying Ukraine has no cards to play.
I've had very good talks with Putin, and I've had not such good talks with Ukraine. They don't have any cards, but they play it tough. But we're not going to let this continue. This war is terrible. It would have never happened if I were president, but it did happen, so I got stuck with it, and the whole world is stuck with it.
And later, he predicted the agreement would be finalized soon. And in Kiev, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his government is working with Washington on a draft agreement aimed at stabilizing strained U.S.-Ukraine relations.
Today, the teams of Ukraine and the United States are working on a draft agreement between our governments. This agreement has the potential to strengthen our relations, and most importantly, the details must be arranged in a way that ensures it works. I hope for a result, a fair result.
Tensions between Zelensky and Trump escalated on Wednesday, with Trump calling Zelensky a dictator and warning that if he doesn't move quickly to secure peace with Russia, he risks losing his country. Meanwhile, Zelensky is also looking to Europe for more support. After speaking with Luxembourg's Prime Minister, Luc Frieden, he said they agree that Europe must and can do much more to achieve a real and lasting peace. Meanwhile, the White House is signaling that a U.S.-Ukraine minerals deal is all but certain. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz said Friday he expects President Zelensky to sign the agreement soon, framing it as part of efforts to bring the war to an end. Take a look.
Here's the bottom line. President Zelensky is going to sign that deal. And you will see that in the very short term. And that is good for Ukraine. What better could you have for Ukraine than to be in an economic partnership with the United States, number one?
Australia accused China today of failing to give satisfactory reasons for what it called inadequate notice of a live fire drill in waters between Australia and New Zealand that forced airlines to divert flights. Defense Minister Richard Marles said the government did not yet have a satisfactory answer from China as to the question of the notice of the drills, which he has said was disconcerting for commercial aviation. When we do an activity of this kind, we would typically give 12 to 24 hours notice, Marles told broadcaster Nine Entertainment. According to a transcript, a satisfactory answer is why that couldn't have been done. Now on Friday, airlines including Qantas, Emirates, and Air New Zealand modified flight paths between Australia and New Zealand after China broadcast a message that its Navy would hold live fire exercises in international waters off the coast of Australia's New South Wales state. Now, Australia's Defence Force said there was no imminent risk of danger to Australian or New Zealand assets, according to the government on Friday.
We believe it would be appropriate to have been given more warning of this potential event taking place. But I can confirm also that there has been no danger to Australian assets as a result of this action in China. Well, it's important as well, and Defence have confirmed that China did comply with international law, and that's important to not suggest that that wasn't the case. What we have done is to make appropriate representations through diplomatic channels, including foreign minister to foreign minister, face-to-face in South Africa, where they are both at the G20 foreign ministers meeting.
Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Guo Jiakun said on Friday the naval exercises upheld safety standards.
The Southern Theater Command of the People's Liberation Army of China organized a fleet of ships to conduct exercises and training in the distant seas. The exercises and training activities always maintain safe, standardized and professional operations in accordance with relevant international laws and international practices.
Big job cuts at the Pentagon. 5,400 civilian workers are getting laid off starting next week. It's one of the deepest cuts to any federal department and part of President Trump's push to shrink the government, but it's sparking serious backlash. The Department of Defense says slashing 8% of its civilian workforce is about efficiency and aligning with the president's priorities.
Now, bottom line, it is simply not in the public interest to retain individuals whose contributions are not mission critical.
But across the country, frustration is boiling over. Under pressure to defend the layoffs, many backed by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, Trump stood firm.
He's a seriously high IQ individual. Now, he's got his faults also, I will tell you that. But not too many of them, which is now really waging war on government waste, fraud, and abuse. And They're curbing inflation and saving taxpayers billions and billions of dollars every single day. And there's even under consideration a new concept where we give 20% of the DOGE savings to American citizens and 20% goes to paying down debt, because the numbers are incredible, Elon. So many billions of dollars, billions, hundreds of billions, and we're thinking about giving 20% back to the American citizens and 20% down to pay back debt and pay down debt, which is positive news. Stand up, Elon.
But that's not sitting well with many Americans.
From a conservative perspective, the approach of DOGE is completely 180 degrees. They've been indiscriminate, and they've taken a chainsaw to these things. We've seen that with workers from the nuclear workers, the NNSA, our nuclear stockpile, and CDC workers working on the bird flu being fired by DOGE and then having to be rehired when someone realizes, oh gosh, we need those people. Why is a supposedly conservative party taking such a radical and extremist and sloppy approach to this? My point, though, is the conservative approach is to take this in a slow and methodical way so that you make sure you do it right. And that's not happening.
And it's not just workers who are frustrated. A Washington Post poll shows 57% of Americans think Trump is overstepping his authority, but the president isn't buying it.
Well, we're in a very good mood. We just had the highest poll numbers I've ever had. Ever.
Now, a new showdown. Maine's Governor Janet Mills is refusing to follow Trump's executive order banning transgender athletes from girls' and women's sports. At a tense White House meeting, Trump made a threat.
So we put a ban on it, and to protect women. I mean, the women, if you watch the Olympics, you had two transitioned people that were fighting in the women's boxing. They have women's boxing category, and if you saw that, it was brutal. What happened to the Italian woman was a really good boxer. After one punch, she said, no more. I've never been hit. It was a left. It was not even it was just a left jab. She got hit so hard, she said, I can't do it. They forced her to go out. No, go out again. You'll do it. Goes out again, gets hit again. No, that's it. She didn't want to die. And it's crazy, but the NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it, because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply, because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding. Every state, good, I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be in elected politics. Every state has a responsibility to comply with Title IX. They have an obligation, a legal obligation. And we'll be enforcing aggressively, and we're going to be protecting our citizens. We're going to protect. So,
with job cuts, protests, and legal fights piling up, the battle over Trump's policies is just getting started. President Donald Trump said he plans to sign a memorandum related to digital taxes without providing details. Now, Bloomberg News reported the memo opens the door to levies in response to digital services taxes some countries impose on U.S. tech giants.
Mr. President, there are reports that you were considering merging. Bloomberg, we're reporting that you're expected to sign tariffs or a memo later on tariffs on digital taxes. Is there any idea how high you might go with?
We are going to be doing that. Digital, what they're doing to us in other countries is terrible with digital, so we'll be announcing that. Are we signing it maybe today?
Today.
And we'll talk about that in a little while.
Couple minutes.
Are you going to put the secretary in charge of the Postal Service?
He's going to look at it. He's got a great business.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Thursday that BRICS nations could face 150% tariffs from the United States for trying to destroy the dollar.
Donald Trump turned his sights on another set of targets Thursday.
Speaking in Washington, he had a warning for the so-called BRICS countries, a group of developing nations founded by Brazil, Russia, India and China.
How about BRICS? You know, the BRIC states, there are like 6 of them, and they were trying to destroy our dollar. They were going to say, you know, they wanted to create a new currency. They probably wanted to use the yuan, China. They wanted to use the yuan. And Biden said, well, this is a tough situation. There's not much we can do about that. We can't help that. I said, oh, we can help it. So when I came in, the first thing I said is any BRIC state that even mentions the destruction of the dollar will be charged a 150% tariff. And we don't want your goods. We don't want to partake. And the BRIC states just broke up. I don't know what the hell happened to them. We haven't heard from the BRIC states lately. But he said that wasn't much we could do about it. There was a lot. It took once, literally. They said, sir, what about the BRIC states? They're going to take over the dollar, the sanctity of the dollar. They're going to create a new currency to rule the world. I said, no, they're not. They said, yes, they are, sir. They said it. I said, no, they're not. Tell them 150% tariff, plus we're not going to do business with them. And that includes China.
The BRICS countries really had been exploring the creation of a common currency. But last week, Brazilian officials said the idea was dead and had never got as far as technical discussions, though it wasn't clear if that had any connection to previous Trump threats on the subject. Brazilian President Lula da Silva gave his own take on Trump's tariffs on Thursday. He said Brazil would match any new US duties and accused Trump of trying to become the emperor of the world. Meanwhile, other countries are scrabbling for a response to Washington's moves on trade. South Korea says it has requested an exemption from US levies on steel and other goods. Deputy Trade Minister Park Jong-won said that was only fair, as most tariffs between the nations had been eliminated under their free trade agreement. On a visit to Washington, he met Congress members to press the country's case. Japan's Trade Minister also says he's hoping to head to Washington for talks.
North Korea is raising alarm bells tonight about what it calls increasingly serious military provocations by the U.S. and its allies. The strong words come straight from Pyongyang's defense ministry. At the heart of North Korea's concerns, recent joint military exercises between the U.S. and South Korea just days ago. South Korean officials confirmed that at least one American B-1B strategic bomber participated in these drills. While South Korea maintains these exercises are purely defensive, North Korea sees them differently. Through state media, an unnamed defense ministry official warned that Pyongyang would counter strategic threats with strategic means. Diplomatics speak that's raising eyebrows across the region. Now, the statement specifically called out the Trump administration and what North Korea terms its vassal forces, claiming these military activities threaten their security. This latest war of words comes amid ongoing tensions on the Korean Peninsula, where the view of military exercises continues to depend very much on which side of the 38th parallel you're standing. Australia and Papua New Guinea said that they would begin talks on a full defense treaty between the two countries.
Today, the Minister and I are announcing that our two countries are commencing negotiations to establish a defence treaty between Australia and PNG. This will be a treaty with ambition. It will be the most significant defence agreement between our two countries since Papua New Guinean independence. Australia's biggest defence cooperation program is in Papua New Guinea. Already there is extensive training which occurs amongst the Papua New Guinean Defence Force in Australia. But this will enable our two defence forces to walk down a pathway of increasing integration and increasing interoperability. You know, we live in a world which is increasingly strategically complex. This is a moment where it is really important that we are working with our closest of friends, but in this case, we are working with family, and that is very much how we see our relationship with Papua New Guinea.
We have consciously made a decision to choose who should be our friends in as far as security is concerned. And we have many friends, and we treat those friends uniquely in different levels. But with Australia, we are, as my Prime Minister, as you said, tied to the hips. We are very close.
The Department of Environment and Natural Resources warns that Manila Bay reclamation projects must include robust flood control measures. In a Bagong Pilipinas interview on PTV4, DENR Secretary Maria Antonia Yulo Loizaga emphasized that without proper flood management planning, these developments could intensify flooding across Metro Manila and surrounding areas. The Secretary highlighted that comprehensive flood control strategies are critical for these coastal projects.
As we had forecasted before, ang findings talaga po ay maski anong gagawin po ng pagbabago sa physical environment ng ating Manila Bay, maapektuhan talaga, number one, ang circulation ng tubig. We cannot move forward kung alam po natin na masastuck po yung tubig paglabas o paglagos from our rivers and from inland dito sa harap ng Manila Bay. Talagang sinastudy po namin ngayon kasi hindi namin mahanap-hanap sa mga sinabmit. So ang cumulative impact study also has direct bearing doon sa mandamus ruling ng Supreme Court. Ano po dapat gawin ng DNR at yung 12 na different national government agencies upang ma-achieve yung sinabi ng Supreme Court, which is to restore the waters of Manila Bay to swimming and recreation quality.
The warning comes as various reclamation initiatives continue along Manila Bay, raising concerns about their environmental impact. Almost 9 out of 10 Japanese companies expect U.S. President Donald Trump's policies to negatively affect business, according to a Reuters survey. The clearest sign yet of mounting worry in the United States' top foreign direct investor. Take a look.
Almost 9 out of 10 Japanese companies expect U.S. President Donald Trump's policies to hurt business. That's according to the results of a new Reuters study out Thursday. It's the clearest sign yet of rising worry in the United States' top foreign direct investor. About 86% of 233 companies surveyed said Trump's policy measures would have an adverse or somewhat adverse effect on their business environment. That's up from 73% from the same survey taken a month before Trump took office. Of the firms in the world's fourth largest economy that see Trump's policy initiatives as negative, 72% picked his trade strategy, including imposing more tariffs as the most detrimental factor. Trump has already announced 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports, imposed 10% duties on goods from China, and has threatened Canada and Mexico with steep measures that are on a 30-day hold. Earlier this week, Trump threatened tariffs, quote, in the neighborhood of 25% on auto imports as soon as April 2nd. While Japan does not impose tariffs on cars, the U.S. government said during Trump's first term that a variety of non-tariff barriers impeded access to Japan's automotive market. Meanwhile, about a quarter of the companies that said they see Trump as bad for business picked deepening friction between the United States and China as their main concern. Japan, a firm U.S. ally, is also deeply reliant on China as both a manufacturing base and a key market for its machinery and other exports.
A spectacular mix of technology and tradition lit up Beijing's Spring Festival Gala as humans and humanoid robots took the stage for a synchronized dance performance like no other. Now blending cutting-edge AI with classic moves, a team of robot dancers joined human performers in a vibrant Yangi folk dance, wowing audiences with their flawless coordination. The highlight? The robots nailed the handkerchief spin, signature Yangi move that usually takes years of practice. Now, the performance, choreographed by Zhang Peng and Li Mengyu, featured dancers from diverse ethnic groups, including Kazakh Bui and Tuija and Bui, creating a unique fusion of culture and innovation. Now, AI software captured every movement, converting them into precise instructions for the robots, making their learning curve faster than ever. Now, this marks the second time a robot team has taken the stage at the gala, proving once again that the future of dance might just be a perfect blend of human creativity and machine precision. And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Have a great weekend. Good night.